really excited to talk to you guys today because I'm going to tell you my journey and what I kind of went through to go from a single freelancer to what we are today. So today we are a 14-person agency. We will be a 17-person agency by the end of June. So it's been really rapid growth, and we only set up about 2 years ago. So the whole process has been pretty crazy and wild. But yeah, I want to tell you about my journey and how I went from being a single freelancer to a 14-person agency. So to do that, we have to go all the way back to the beginning. So I often say that my career kind of started at UCL. So I have 2 degrees in modern literature, 2 degrees in English literature, one in modern, and I did a master's in modern literature at UCL. And I really enjoyed, getting into really complicated topics like complex theories of time and Alice in Wonderland, or the psychosocial impacts of modern high rises and J.G. Ballard. And this is kind of where I set my foundation as a writer. It was where I learned how to take apart really complicated topics, how I learned to take on challenges, and how I learned to think quite critically. So after my degree as an English lit major, most English lit majors have absolutely no idea what to do with it because you're told academia or publishing. So I tried a publishing internship and it wasn't quite for me. Tried a PR internship, also wasn't quite for me. And then I found this brilliant copywriting course. And that was the first time that I really saw that, this writing, this critical thinking that I've always loved doing was actually something that I could do as a career. So I started to get really into copywriting, and this additional academic period helped like cement my career into the copywriting world and helped me gain my first couple positions. So I did a diploma in Google Squared digital marketing, which was really great, gave me a whole wide landscape over the marketing area, gave me those foundational skills that I needed to transition from a master's into digital marketing. And then I did a SEO internship as well, which helped to build my SEO skills and is something that we use every single day today. So these were really fundamental beginning building blocks for my career that allowed me to, set up and get started. Around this time, my daughter was also born. So I have a daughter who's 3.5. And this was quite a pivotal moment in my journey because not only, becoming a parent, but also because it created a lot of challenges in the workplace for me. So it was very difficult, like when I was pregnant, to get a job and to get into a career. And it was very difficult when she was very young. Similarly, also very difficult when she was really young to get into a career because I felt that most people looked at me as, either pregnant or with a new baby and wouldn't give me the chance of day. So before this moment, I had never really thought about doing my own thing. I had never really thought about being an entrepreneur. I grew up in a household where my dad was an entrepreneur. So I saw him doing it every single day. I saw the struggle. I saw how hard it was. I saw like how much he was impacted in the 2008 crash because my dad was in the housing market in 2008 in the States, which obviously didn't go very well for him. So I saw all this hardship and I didn't want that for myself. So up until my daughter was born, I'd always thought that I would work in a salaried, stable, permanent position. And it wasn't until she came along that I really started to feel that that was my way forward. That was how I was going to create a career. That was how I was going to get the opportunities that I wanted. So I kind of felt, in a way, I kind of felt a little bit pushed out of the workplace and pushed into having to forge my own path. So when she was about 10 months old, I got a position at an agency, and that was really great. It showed me, the agency experience, but it also allowed me to start working on financial service and technology accounts. So today, at Copy House, we specialize in financial services and technology. And it was that ability to work on really complicated topics during my master's that then when I went agency side, made me a really natural person to go to for the harder topics and kind of started to set this foundation, started to set this path for Copy House. but I saw some really things that I didn't agree with when I was working agency side. So as a copywriter, I wasn't given much interaction with the client. I worked on an account for 6 months and never actually met that client, which I didn't think was the best way to go about doing things. I also wasn't paid very well, and that actually is what pushed me to leave, because after 6 months of doing a very good job, I asked for a very small raise and they said no. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to go do my own thing. And that pushed me into being, a freelancer. And until that moment, until these circumstances that kind of led up to it, I hadn't actually thought about running my own business. So I set out on my own and set up as a freelance copywriter. It was me so I probably became a freelance copywriter in about September. And that was really good. And I started to build quite a nice bank of clients. So about 6 months later, that was when Copy House was officially born. So it only took about 6 months to go from being a freelancer to reaching a level where I needed to establish the company as an LTD and transition into being more of an agency and take on some additional support. So one of the lessons that I learned from these really early stages was the power of LinkedIn, and I still use LinkedIn almost every single day. LinkedIn was where my first client as a freelancer came from. They found me, actually. They were a recruitment agency who I had the pleasure of working with for a couple of years, right up until COVID happened. But, I started with just posting about myself, and it's developed into, a personal brand, and people know things about me. I'll get my hair cut and they'll be like, oh, you cut your hair. I'm like, yeah, do I know you? But it's really quite nice because I've been able to share my journey from, being a freelancer all the way to being the agency owner that I am today through LinkedIn. So, I mean, one of the things that I would definitely, want to impart on you guys is that LinkedIn is super powerful for gaining a network and getting leads and getting people to trust and believe in you. And if you haven't already, I would definitely invest in spending time to set it up and manage it properly. I've been really active on LinkedIn for about 2-3 years now, and it still continues to drive leads for us, and it's continued to feed into the business's journey. I've met some really great people, met some really great clients, and really opened doors that wouldn't have been open otherwise. About 6 months into being a freelancer, I was offered a contract working in-house with a very large financial service provider. So I took that, and that was kind of the start of Copy House because it allowed us to build a nest egg. So I spent about 10 months, 11 months working in-house for a large financial service provider as a contractor on a day rate. And that then allowed me to build up a bank, build up a nest egg that I could then use to aggressively launch Copy House. I could use to invest in people and staff and invest in the company. So I built this safety net financially that really, was so helpful, especially during like early COVID, but gave me the confidence to then go and start hiring employees. So I started by my first employee ever first he was a freelancer. So he freelanced for me on a part-time basis. And then when I started to hire, became, one of Copy House's first employees. I did a hiring round last January of 4 people. So I hired an account manager, which was a really good move because the account manager basically freed me up from all the clients, and they allowed me to focus on new business while they took on all the existing business and kept the clients happy. I hired a couple of copywriters, and I hired a social media strategist, which actually ended up not being a very, very good move. It was a little too early to start to try to expand our services. So yeah, I haven't done everything right, but I've learned some important lessons along the way. So one of the lessons that I learned, when I started to take on a team was how was I going to manage them, especially if they were going to be remote. So even before COVID, they were hybrid based. And what we've kind of always done is output based management. So rather than measuring face time or how many hours employees spent at work, we've always measured on the results that they've delivered, because what's still important to me, is the quality of the work. So I don't care when they do it, if they want to do it at 2 a.m. or 6 p.m., whenever is going to be the best time for them to write. Obviously, we have client meetings these days, so it's not, clients are perhaps a little less flexible, so they still have to show up for the client meetings, but we don't have hard start or finish times. It also kind of set the foundations for our work from anywhere policy. So today we have a work from anywhere policy that allows employees to travel as they wish. Most of my team comes from outside of the UK. So we have family that live elsewhere and really want to go spend time with them. I'm originally from the States, and I couldn't possibly work at a place that didn't let me go see my family as much as I wanted. And I really believe that as long as I have the internet, it will be totally fine. Our account manager has actually been in South Africa for 6 months, and we haven't noticed a difference apart from the occasional electricity shortage. So up until COVID, we had always been quite generalist. We worked with travel, recruitment. We had done a lot in tech and FinTech because that had been a strong theme for me since, agency days and UCL. But when COVID hit, what we did was I looked at the market and I said, okay, I know that I think that these sectors are going to survive. They're going to do well. They're probably going to bounce back first. So I lasered our focus. Completely redid the website, in those very early days when things were very quiet. We completely redid our website and we really went hard after the technology and FinTech space. And that was our survival technique. That was how we were going to get through the pandemic. And it was a bit of a risky move to, limit your customer base to such a super niche during, such a crisis. But it really, really, really worked for us, by owning what we did and planting our flag in the ground. It made everything much sharper. It made our messaging sharper. It made it easier to go to market. It made it easier for people to remember who we are and what we do. So that was a really good move. And that was when we really became specialists in technology and FinTech. And I hired a marketing manager, probably July. I hired a full-time marketing manager who was really able to help us champion this and help us, claim our space in the content marketing world. So this was a really important lesson. I think it's, an ongoing debate for agencies and freelancers. Do you niche? Do you not niche? I've seen firsthand the value of being super niche. So we're niche in the services that we offer because we only really do SEO and copywriting, and we support content all the way through its journey, everything from workshops to strategy to content production to content dissemination. And then we also niche in technology and FinTech. So that makes us super memorable. It helps people understand what they should do with us, who they should introduce us to, when they should remember us. And it's really worked quite well to help us grow and survive and kind of slingshot out of COVID. So over the last year, when we went into COVID, we had a team of about 4, and now we have a team of 14. So I've had to build a company virtually. I've had to build a team virtually. I've had to do virtual hiring and onboarding. Had to find clients virtually. It's really quite a challenge and very different thing because agencies rely on people. So you have to keep your people happy. You have to keep them productive. You have to keep them creative. You have to keep them at their very best, at their peak, so that they can do the best work for you. But that requires, building a really awesome culture. So we've done some pretty cool things. So we have an employee mental health scheme. So the mental health scheme gives them an hour a month with a mental health provider where they can just have a safe place to talk to somebody. They can talk about the weekend, they can talk about the weather, they can talk about something more serious. I just wanted to create a space where they had that support, especially during a time when, our normal support network might not be available or might be dealing with other stresses or challenges. Having a third party person who you can just kind of offload to, I think is so essential. So we've looked for really creative ways to build a team culture and to keep a company together. One of the things that I've also done as well is, rather than relying on a pool of freelancers, I've hired all permanent in-house employees because that's allowed me to invest and develop them. So I really enjoy, investing in a team and doing the learning and the development and giving them training and, really building their skill set. So we only really hire permanent full-time employees and use that as a good way to build our culture. Yeah, so we've done quite a lot over the last year. We're currently going through our B Corp. So we're currently going through the process of becoming an ethical agency, which means that we care about people, planet, and profit. So we operate with a triple bottom line rather than just a single bottom line of profit. I live by this motto of happy team, happy clients. And I believe that if I can get that right, I'll get, everything else will just fall into place. So I'm constantly looking for ways to make the team happy. Our flexible output-based management and work from anywhere scheme gives them a good work-life balance, even in agency world. We invest really heavily in them with personal development opportunities, and we do quarterly reviews to help them understand, how they can better themselves and what we can do to support them. We use Office Vibes to get really granular insights into our company culture and to get feedback. We have that EAP mental health program that I told you about, and we do lots of social. So we're kind of constantly evolving and working on our company culture. I think it's so important. I've also invested in Coffee House quite heavily. So even during the pandemic, even when the chips were down, I was investing in Coffee House by, doing a brand new website, hiring a full-time marketing manager, doing a lot of business development. So I try to meet, 50 people a month. I try to grow my network quite significantly, do a lot of public speaking, do a lot of outreach, and all of this kind of helps to grow and helped our agency survive during what was a very tough year. So today we're a 14-person team. We've got an account manager, a project manager, 8 copywriters, a designer. We even have an HR and people manager, a marketing manager. And last year we grew by 70%, which during a year that was as shit as it was, is really, really, really great. And I'm so proud of where we've come and where we stand today as an agency that specializes in technology and FinTech. So I've got a lot of plans. I've got a lot of really exciting plans. So at the moment, we're expanding into design. We're expanding our current services to include design. We've built momentum over the last couple months, and we have an in-house designer joining us from next week. We're expanding into the US with some concentrated sales efforts. We have 5 new hires planned for this month, and I want to grow the company by another 100% this year. So that's kind of where we are and where we're going and my agency journey. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.